What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another dope edition of Define Your Legacy. I'm your host, Theus Elijah McBee. And before we tap into today's episode of Define Your Legacy, just want to shout out the online store for Define Legacy, which can be found at the link in the description of this episode. All right, we have t-shirts, long sleeves, hoodies, and a whole lot more. All right, so feel free to check out the link in the description of this episode. All right, and just like that, we're going to jump right into today's guest. We have Bree on the show. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Appreciate you for pulling up on the show. So if you could, right, just introduce yourself and tell the world the value that you provide.
All right. Well, we just bonded on having complicated names. My name is Briony, which is the name of my screen name, Briony like peony. A little bit about myself, you say. So I'm a flight attendant. That's kind of where you found me at. My flight attendant travel page that I have, which is what I mainly focus on, travel and lifestyle. For the most part. I live in Texas, been here all my life, and just got married not too long ago. So that's a new milestone that I'm getting used to. And then it's really it. I guess like a fun fact, I have 8 siblings. So that's something that happens. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you don't hear that every day. Well, congratulations on the recent marriage. Definitely congratulations and happy for you on that end. But how did you get started being a flight attendant? How did that all kind of come about?
My journey to becoming a flight attendant was completely a fluke. Like, I graduated college and I went to school for public relations and I wanted to do sports marketing. That was my goal. I was going to do sports marketing. But where I went to school became very toxic. So I was like, I got to get the hell out of there. So I came back home. So all my connections that I built up were back where I went to school, which was UT San Antonio. So in San Antonio. So when I got home, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna grind and do my thing, like become a sports marketer. But it was so hard because I was also a student athlete and my coach did not allow us to work. So I had no internships. I had no nothing. So going to these interviews, people were like, well, what you been doing for 4 years? I'm like, running. Like, that's a thing. I don't know what to tell you. It was either get a job or lose my scholarship. So it was like, I didn't have any experience. So I hit the pavement and was like, let me just find a job. When I tell you, I applied everywhere, 7-Eleven, McDonald's, Cheddar's, I could not find a job. It was crazy. And I graduated in 2013. So I had a little graduation party and my neighbors who have been flight attendants for like 30 plus years now, gave me this big old like envelope. And I'm like, wow, this got a lot of money in it. It's thick. It's going to be good. And then when I opened it, it was an application. And I was like, what is this? And they're just like, well, we always thought you'd be perfect, but with track and everything, like we knew you couldn't do it. And we're finally hiring because they hadn't hired since 9/11. And I was like, no, I'm okay. I'm going to try to, I went to school for 4 years. Let me try to give you this. Hell, maybe even 3 months later, I still didn't have a job that I wanted. And I very drunkenly applied. And I got it. And that's literally how it happened. And I did it as like no one else will hire me. I might as well. What does it look like someone giving me the opportunity and me not even filling it out? So I did it. But then as I learned about it and as I went through this, it's 3 interviews that you have to go through basically. So after I went through all that, I was like, wow, I started to really want the job. And I was like, oh, if I don't get this job, I think I'm gonna cry. It was like the first job that I wanted that I was like, all right, this could be me. This could be my new thing since everything else I planned failed.
Mm-hmm. And so how does that kind of feel, to know that the one thing, like the last thing that you thought about even applying for ended up working out? Do you feel like it was kind of meant to be?
Exactly. That's what I always tell people because when I graduated the flight academy, they tell you that becoming a flight attendant, I don't know if it's like that now because we're hiring a lot of people now. But when I first started, they said getting a job as a flight attendant was like the equivalent to getting accepted into Harvard. It was really hard. And I was like, wow, that made me feel really accomplished. But then I also thought it was like BS because, you're just saying something nice to make everyone. But then I've had people apply. I've made several friends have asked me to do it. Hell, my sister applied several times and she got rejected each time. So it did make me feel like, oh, well, I must have something that's special when everyone else was telling me no, 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 no. This person said yes. So it did feel good. It's a sense of pride that I do have in being a flight attendant.
How many times did you apply?
One.
One and done.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What do you think, like knowing everything you know now, what do you think could boost someone's chances of actually getting it when they really apply?
I believe since I didn't really care, that was actually better for me. A lot of people I when I went to my flight training, people, they asked, what's your story? Kind of like what we just did now. What's your story? What made you do it? And a lot of people become a flight attendant, in my opinion, because they always dreamed of it. There's a lot of people that were in class. I had a friend who was from Thailand, and he was like, every time he looked up at the sky, he was like, that's where I'm supposed to be. And so he applied like to 4 or 5 different airlines and didn't get it. And the one that I work at was his third shot. Like, it was like stories like that, or stories like big life changes. Like, oh, I just got out of a really bad relationship, or a 10, 15-year divorce, or unfortunately, a lot of men that, let's just say, were very controlling with their wives and stuff like that. So wives that were still controlled for so many years, that's the first thing they did was apply to become a flight attendant. So with me, I feel like I did a lot of research because I thought since I knew them, I had it in the bag. But it doesn't matter who. It's not one of those jobs where you're like, oh yeah, hire her, she's really good. They have no control. They can literally write their name on something now. They didn't have that when I first started. Now, if someone was to apply, I could probably write something. But they didn't have that before. So I thought, oh, I got it because of them. And they were like, no, we can't do anything. It's nothing. It's not about who you know. So do you want to talk about the process?
Yeah. Before, yeah.
So it's some updated information. I've been a flight attendant for almost 9 years now, so it's different now. But you send an application. You go to the careers page, you send an application. And then after the application, they would send you a link to do a virtual interview. And kind of like what we're doing now, it would be a prompt. And then you'd be sitting and you'd be like, well, I think, and you'd be saying it. So when I did that, the advice I always give people is just to look clean. At the time, they didn't want a whole bunch of makeup. They didn't want a whole bunch. It was very, I don't know, you would say first wife presidential. That's what I want to say, pearls, really clean kind of aesthetics. And then after that, you would get the in-person interview, which is wherever you are. So I actually work in Dallas. That's where the headquarters is. So wherever you would work or wherever you live, they would fly you into the headquarters and you would have the personal interview, which is actually a group interview. There were 15, 20 other people in there. And I actually Googled a whole bunch of stuff on Glassdoor and things like that, and YouTube, and just wrote down a lot of stuff. And so what everyone was saying from there is that they're just looking for genuine, nice people, but not over the top people. Oh my gosh, I bought everyone muffins. Would you like one? Not like that. More just someone dropped something and you picked it up, or you saw that someone was looking lonely in the corner. You went to go talk to them. That's what they literally talked about on all those things that I researched. So, I like to think I'm just a genuine nice person, which is why I like the job. I don't have to pretend a lot of times. So I just was in there being myself, talking to people, not talking to people. I didn't really have to try really hard to be there. They put us in some group activities, which was kind of like what you would do, first day of school icebreakers, 3 truths and a lie, things like that. But they were looking for people who could work together, leadership. Did you just steal everything and start writing stuff down? Did you talk to everyone? But what really got me, and the one advice that I did get from my neighbor, because they said they couldn't give me no advice, was answer the question. So right now we're having an interview, so I'm going all over the place, right? Because it would be a pretty dry conversation if I didn't embellish and talk, right? But what they wanted were people who could follow directions, because flight attendants, our first thing is safety. It's not giving y'all a drink. It's making sure that y'all make it safe. So you have to be able to follow directions and orders. So when you had the group interview, there'd be 3 administrators and then like 5 people on the other side, and they would give you a card and they like read your card and answer it. And I actually remember 2 of my questions. One of my questions was, in the last job that you had, what was something that you did in your like everyday position that you remember that made someone's life change or like made someone happy? And I remember this one girl was talking about she was a crossing guard. Another one was talking about how she was a banker. And it wasn't like, I'm a banker and my job is usually this. And so I remember doing this for this one woman named Sharon and blah, 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 blah. It was kind of how I'm talking to you now, going all around the world and then getting to the point at the end. So I remember when I did it, I said I worked at this store. I don't know, some of your viewers, if they're not old enough or live in Dallas, they're not gonna know, but it was a store in the mall called Booyaka. It was
what?
It was called Booyaka. And even saying it makes me laugh. It was my first job in high school at our mall, and we only had like 3 of them in the Metroplex, but it was a clothing store. It was called Booyaka. And so I was like, okay, I was a fitting room girl at Booyaka, and I, every day it's just, oh yeah, that looks nice. But there was this woman who was going on her first date, and I was in high school. I'd never been on like a fancy date where you dressed up. So I was like really into it, but I didn't say all that. Of course, I said I was the fitting room attendant. There was a woman who's going on her first date. I helped her find some pieces. I could tell she was anxious. And at the end of the day, when she left, she was really excited. And she even came back to show me that she had a second date thanks to my clothes. And she wanted me to pick out her second date outfit. And it made me feel good because it was like she was very anxious when she first came in. And then I made her at ease. And then the second time when she came in, she was so happy and pleased with me that she just, we just talked the whole time. That was it. And when that was over, you're all sitting in the room and they're making you sweat because they're calling people one at a time to leave. Like, oh crap. And I do remember on one of the websites it said, pay attention to which way they're taking people, because they're taking everyone who got it one way and they're taking everyone who didn't get it the other way. And that if you're escorted to the door, they're going to basically say, don't call us, we'll call you, but they're not going to call you. Like it's done. If you go and you get fingerprinted, that's your next stop. Like you made it. So everyone that I'm thinking is amazing is going to the right. And I'm like, okay, to the right. So that's the place. And I'm just sitting there trying to smile, trying to look nice. And then they called my name and they took me to the left. And I was like, oh, okay. So someone also said, like, don't look defeated, like talk about talk about everything, like maybe they'll change their mind, whatever. So I'm just talking like, oh, well, the new campaign that y'all had out is really cool, blah, blah. And where they're taking me, there's literally a door to the exit and like the door where they do fingerprinting, which I didn't know. So I'm like, all right, well, you have a nice day. I really enjoyed my interview. And I walked away towards the exit and they're like, where are you going? And I was like, I didn't get the job. I'm going to the left. And they were like, no, fingerprinting's right here. We loved you. I said, me? What? Oh my gosh. And I just and it's just me with like pearls and everything, looking all posh the whole time. Like, yes, like doing all. And the lady was like looking at us like, I'm sorry. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It's almost like you had to control your emotions, even though obviously you were happy and thrilled. You didn't think that you were getting selected.
It was really like, that's why I say my whole journey to it was very like, what? Like I couldn't believe that it was happening. Because by then I really wanted it. So like, I did my fingerprinting and that was it. But even a lot of stuff has changed though. So like my hair is blonde and natural. I was natural then. That was back when I was transitioning. And so I was straightening my hair a lot still. So I had got me a birthday weave and I had it pulled back into like a really cute bun and it was straight. But being a Black person in corporate, professional, whatever, there's a little different boundaries for us. So when I was in my interview, I made sure to ask, is this going to be a problem? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, my hair is blonde. It's obviously not the color it grows out. Is it going to be a problem? And she was like, no. And I just kind of looked at her. she was a white woman, but she kind of like, you could tell the question kind of took her back. And I was like, I really need to know, because I'm not trying to get there and get pressured into having to do something to it. So I need to know, is this going to be a problem so I can fix it now? And she said, okay, well, I'm being honest with you. And this is something that I think all companies do for the most part. When you first get there, you're on probation for 6 months. And so on probation, you're on probation. And so you do not belong to the union for 6 months. So basically you got to be on your P's and Q's for 6 months. Because if you fuck up, it's on you. You can't, like, the union can't do nothing for you. So she said, for 6 months, you're on probation. On probation, you have to be on your P's and Q's. She said, she looked at my resume. She's like, it says that you live in Dallas. Do you plan to like stay? Because you get like lodging and stuff. Do you plan to stay there? And I was like, no, I'll probably just go home because I have a job. And she was like, okay, this is going to sound unorthodox. She said, are you opposed to wearing a wig? And I was like, what? And I didn't wear wigs. That was when wigs were weird. Like, didn't nobody want to wear a wig. And she was like, your hair is beautiful. You have a job on your own. You live in Dallas. Like, this is your home. Just get a wig and wear it during training hours and then be yourself afterwards and do that for 6 months.
Is that even legal? Are you allowed to like to tell someone like, you should probably get a wig or like
well,
is that not?
She definitely said it's off the record, but she was just helping me.
Oh, okay.
Because,
Okay.
Yeah, because when you hear what like flight attendant training is not for the weary. It is actually really hard. I told someone, I've never pledged, but I told someone I would feel like it was kind of like pledging or like basic training for the Army, because it's a lot of being told what to do, being told how to dress. Like we called her the hairspray Nazi. She would come around and spray your hair for flyaways, hair that doesn't look like it's, that just came out. So you just see this hairspray and she'd be pulling it back, or you don't have enough blush on, or, oh, your cuticles are bad. You need to make sure that your paint's chipping. Make sure you paint your nails. The guys, they had to shave their face like every 2 days. Like you had to be clean cut. Like we were like little Barbies and Kens walking around.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's sounded like dolls kind of thing. The way it's
it really was. And it was like, because you were required to wear, if you got like, this was a no. I have purple nails. It was a no. It had to be like a cream color. I forgot. I think red was allowed because we were American. Red, French tips, something like that. But it couldn't be colors. It could only be a certain length. Your hair, like I couldn't wear my hair like this because hair was out in the front. It had to like, your ponytail had to be like, if you had your ponytail out, it couldn't like go past right here. So they would have like rulers for people's ponytails, or else you had to like put your hair in a bun.
Rulers is kind of crazy.
It was crazy, but think about like when it makes sense, but not to the astringent things. It was almost like they were treated like this and they treated us like this, like the whole.
Oh, I get it. Cycle, yeah.
That's how I felt like it was. But it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard for people of color in general. And not just, when I say people of color, not just Black people, it was like other people. Like had a girlfriend who is, I don't know what nationality she is, but where, piercings and stuff. Mm-hmm. So like Persian kind of nationality. So it's a religious thing. Mm. So she would have to fight for that every single day for like 7.5 weeks. But it's in her documents, like it's religious, like shut the fuck up, Right. But she had to fight for that all the time. So anyway, back to the wig though. So I went and bought this little cheap wig. I called her Janet. She had bangs, put her in a little bun, whatever. And it did feel really good because then like everyone else, they had to change who they were a lot of times to be there. But then I was doing like promo modeling. I could take it off, shake my hair out and go home, which was really refreshing. But I remember the lady also told me, make sure I wear my hair, like my hair for picture day so that my ID looks like me. And that way you'll at least get to see what they would say. And if you have really cool instructors, maybe they won't say anything. So then throw the wig away, So I was like, okay. So my hair was straight then. I came hair blonde, straight. And I said, okay, I need to know. What about this? Is this okay? And the first day I had this Black lady. She was great. She said the same thing, honestly. She said, she gave you really good advice. She said, because it's hard out here for us, is what she said. And she said, hair is gorgeous. She said, but they will make you dye it if you keep it out. She said, so don't I would advise to wear it. And I was like, okay. So I showed her the wig, I showed her the picture. I said, so this is okay. Everything's okay. And she was like, yeah, everything's good. And I was like, okay. So that's like your image. Like, it's like this whole thing where they take you to image and they look over your image and they tell you what to fix, basically. And that was my first time. You go see him a second time. Well, she was just like, she was there, but she was there like, you do both. You do this like a special assignment and then you go back to flying. So she was only there for special assignment. She went back to flying. The second time I had this bitch. I had this lady. I had this lady.
How you gonna ask after?
Sorry, I'm gonna start.
No, you good. You good, girl. Go ahead.
You saw it brought back memories. I had this lady, and she sat me down, and I made sure I asked everything I needed so it'd be in my record already. So she looks at me up and down, and she's just like, I mean, yeah, your hair's too long. You need to cut, and if you don't have it cut by the end of the day, you're gonna get cut yourself. And I was like, what's too long about my hair? She's like, your bangs are too long. They have to be shorter, or and they used to say that because we'd be in class from like class range from 5 a.m. to noon or 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. or it would range. So like, there's nowhere to get your hair cut. So they would do that to like mess with you. And I was like,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm like, are you sure my hair is too short? Like, is it in the, you read my record, right? She's like, yeah, it doesn't matter what your record said. Like, your hair's too short. So I pulled the wig back and I was like, well, is that better? She was like, I was like, if you read my record, I said I'm wearing a wig. Like, and you just had to mess with me. So for her, my bangs were too long. And I asked her, did you read the record? She was like, yeah. So I pulled it back. I said, is that better? Like, they're short now. And she was like, she had it in for me the whole rest of the time. She did not like me.
Is it not crazy though that you and I'm sure other people have to go through all of that though? Like, because that's the part of your identity, right?
It is, but just like, I think it's crazy because it definitely is. It's crazy to an extent, like you said, the spraying and the length. So in their eyes, of course, because even flying since I've flown has changed. Flying used to be a luxury, right? It used to be something that like everyone didn't get to do. It was luxury travel. If you think back to like Pan Am and all that, it was, pristine girls. And, flight attending has changed over the years. Because again, I didn't know none of this because I just jumped into it. But like they used to weigh you. It was like wrestling. You used to have to be a certain weight to be a flight attendant. And if you were too big, you couldn't be it. And they would weigh you randomly. And if you were too big, they gave you a certain amount of time to lose weight. It was a very vain career for a long time.
It's almost like you're a boxer.
Yeah, it's still like in other countries. It's just that it's illegal to do that in the US. So they can't. But that's what being a flight attendant was all about. It was all about vanity, your looks. I mean, men weren't allowed to be flight attendants for the longest because it was a girl thing. Like rich men wanted pretty girls, not men, So that's just like what you got with the career. But with it, like changing your identity, that's why I was like, it had to be like, if I had to change too much, I don't think I could have done it. I think if that woman hadn't given me the advice, the sidebar advice to get a wig, I don't think I would have been able to do it because like when I dyed my hair blonde, it was a part of like a new identity kind of thing, like a fresh start. When I was again in college, our coach did not allow us to dye our hair. We were not allowed to. You signed something saying if it is not your God-given color, don't do it, basically. So I dyed my hair the day after I graduated. and went back to his office and was like, "You like it?" He was like, "Yeah, you're not my student anymore. It looks great. It looks great on you. That color is great." I was like, "Well, thanks." But I could not for 4 years. I was already in this stringent program for 4 years on stuff I couldn't do. Like I couldn't pledge, I couldn't dye my hair, I couldn't get tattoos. I could like he was really strict. But it was like either my education or do this. So I think it's because I was already in that mindset. It's kind of easier. So like when she wouldn't advise me to get that wig, I don't think I could have did it because I saw people that they were like, I had a friend of mine who got his hair cut. It was kind of edgy. Like it's a nice cut, but it was edgy. They said your hair is too, they said, I think their hair is too on trend or too edgy. Like, it needs to be like this. And so he was like, okay, so he got it cut. He went to the barber and got it cut like a normal style. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
And just like we had a first round of people who were a lot of minorities. So they were giving it to us real. And then the second round, like I said, with the lady that I told you was mean to me, was nothing but white people. And I don't know if it's because they couldn't understand or they couldn't relate, but they were so straight laced. They were so like, this is what it is or not. And so he was like, well, I went to the barber that was suggested to me. And I said, I'm at training. I need it to look like a training haircut, like whatever. And it's what they gave me. And he was like, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't get it fixed in the next, day or so, you out. And luckily we had some of the most compassionate, like when I talk about my trainers that I had, people are like, back then trainers weren't like that. We had some really good trainers. So our trainers got through a lot of our work that day. Like almost all of our work, he got through it really quickly so that he could take him to the barber to get his haircut. But a lot of trainers were like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's it. So I was also really blessed. Timing, like you said, timing. I was really blessed to have the trainers that I had. I was really blessed to get in the time that I got in. But I do hear that a lot of stuff's changed now. Like, again, I graduated at the academy in 2014. So now when I first started, you weren't allowed, like it literally said, of course, you couldn't wear locks. You couldn't have locks. But now you got a lot of people with locks. You have a lot of people with tattoos. Like at first it was like you couldn't have tattoos on your arm. You couldn't have tattoos that would show. But now it's like they can't discriminate against that anymore. So people can have tattoos, but they have to wear long sleeves. If they have like a sleeve, you just can't wear the short sleeve. I haven't seen anyone come in with like being discriminated against their hair color or anything like that. Makeup, you've seen all these YouTube things. People wear their makeup on any way they want. I haven't seen anyone get in trouble for having wild makeup. So I think it's definitely changed since then.
So let me ask this, right? Because obviously now being, receiving that advice from either trainers and going through the whole process now to actually being a flight attendant, what would you say are the pros and the cons of being a flight attendant?
Well, right now the cons are the customers. I'm just gonna be real. You have the sweetest customers, you have the nicest customers, and then you have the most horrible customers all in the same day. It used to be like you might like be like certain locations. Like I swear, if you Google anything about Miami Airport, you're gonna have some crazy stuff go on. Okay, so it was like Miami LaGuardia, no. Miami JFK, no. Miami Atlanta, hell no. Like there are certain places that you kind of know you don't want to touch, right? But now with again, think the times have just changed with the really low fares, $30 tickets, which I never find.
Wait a minute, what?
Okay, what either. So people keep
Who's
saying
on an airplane for $30 and where are they going?
Thank you. Because I don't know anything about it, but that's what everyone keeps saying. Like I've had customers come on and be like, oh yeah, I got this ticket last minute for like $40. $40 where? Because when I'm for a ticket, it's $200, it's $300.
I have another question off that, but I'm gonna let you get into the pros first because that sounds a little outrageous that people are buying tickets to get on a plane. There are bus tickets that cost more than that. So, but yeah, what would you say are pros, I guess, of being a flight attendant? What are some things that people could look forward to being a flight attendant?
Of course, it's the travel. That's why any of us do it. It's the opportunity to see the world, to do things, because it doesn't even really matter. Okay, it does matter. It does matter the company that you choose because they have different routes. So like Delta flies to Africa. You know, you can go to Johannesburg. Where else do they fly? I don't know. American, we're just starting to get into Africa, like Morocco, but we don't have like Africa. I don't think Delta flies to Kenya yet, but they fly there. But like Southwest doesn't do any international. So if you got to fly with Southwest, you won't be doing any international on your planes. However, you can fly on other airlines, which what we call like a Z rate, which is like still not full price. You're still standby, but you're just a lower priority. So because if I want to go to London and I'm on my metal, my American Airlines flight, then it's like, okay, you're high priority versus like a Southwest flight attendant, they're all going to be lower priority because it's not their metal, it's not their company. But they can still travel the world, you know?
Yeah, but so do you get to choose which airline? Like, and I don't know if this was something you did in the beginning, but like, do you choose specifically what airline you want to like be a flight attendant for, or do they kind of do it automatically? Are you inserted into like a pool, if you will?
Oh, no, you're actually applying to that company.
Okay.
And so you would go to like pick an airline you want to fly to, their career page, and then click if they're hiring.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you go through the training first, and then you choose American or Delta or whoever.
You choose first, and then you get picked for that place, and you go through their training. So like when I applied,
Okay.
American.
Gotcha.
And when other people apply, let's say they applied to Southwest, Delta, and American, they might have applied to all three and only got accepted at one.
Okay. All right. Choose the airline first.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's
Okay.
there's scams about people being trained to be a flight attendant. Kind of how like what you said, it doesn't work that way. So viewers, it does not work that way. You apply for the job that you want at the place that you want. Don't fall for these places saying, oh, we can train you to be the best flight attendant. That's not how it works unless you're doing private flight attending. Like the corporate flight attending, they do stuff like that. But if you want to fly commercial, you apply to the actual place directly and you do their training. Every other training doesn't count.
Got you. So I know you mentioned obviously, you were a student athlete at college, but let me ask you this. Do you need a college degree to become a flight attendant?
No, you don't. Don't quote me. I wish I knew, but I think they just changed it to where you don't have to be 21, but I think you had to at least be turning 21 by the time you graduated the academy because you handle liquor.
Good point. Good point. So, you mentioned the word scam, which obviously gets tossed around every day nowadays. But so let's take it from the top then. So hopefully someone can avoid that situation. So if someone came to you, right, and they wanted to become a flight attendant, right? Let's take it from the top. What would be some general steps? Watch this video, right? That's watch this.
Follow.
Okay. Yeah. And then where would you send them? Like what's the next step of taking that initiative of truly becoming a flight attendant?
Well, first thing you need to do is you need to research the companies that you're applying for.
Okay.
Companies as in like I wish I did this. I would have researched companies and seen like how people like the company because you go through a lot to get there and not like it,
Yeah. And to be clear, my apologies, but then to be clear, by companies, you mean airlines, right?
Airlines, I'm sorry.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, you're good. Just want to make sure everyone knows that, okay, by companies, you mean airlines. All right, so let's say you research, right, the airlines that you want to partake in, right? So let's just use me as an example, okay? Let's say the airline is Airline R or Airline T. I won't use a specific name because I don't want to give any airline, extra clout, but Airline T, right? My name starts Airline T. Okay, so I look up Airline T. Is there anything I'm looking for specifically, or?
You would just go to careers first to see if they're hiring, because sometimes they will close and open hiring things, and they don't usually keep them up for long because people want the job.
Okay.
But what I would do is I didn't do this, so I can't really give exact things. But, you know, like people come and talk to me on social media all the time. Hey, I want to be a flight attendant. What do I do? So I actually tell people, but you work for this company. How is it? I would probably just look up the hashtag and send a message to someone who works at another airline that I'm applying to. Like, I'm really thinking about applying. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Is it really hard? Is it easy? Is it stuff like that? So that would be something I would do. I would research YouTube, just research, you know, flight attendant questions, flight attendant pros and cons. Just research, just get it all in your head. That would be the first thing I do. The second thing I would do is I would have to really decide if I wanted to live at home. And I say that because the company I work for has a Dallas base. So I was good. I didn't have no money. I just graduated college. I wasn't trying to live somewhere else, but it has a Dallas base. So let's say you apply to Delta. They don't have a Dallas base. So if you wanted to stay in Dallas, you have to make sure before you apply that you would be okay to go into one of their bases. So maybe look up these airlines and where their hubs are. Hubs, bases, they're interchangeable, just like where they, you know, it's their stuff they fly out of. So I know Delta has like Atlanta, Minneapolis, Detroit, New York, you know, things like that. They're on this side of the world. They're not really on the west side. So yeah, think about that, because when you graduate, they're just going to give you your assignment and ship you off. It's not up to them to help you find an apartment. It's not up to them to help you do nothing. You got a certain amount of time to get your stuff together, and then you go to work. That's literally what it is.
Nice.
So you got to be ready for that. So I would look up that. This is all even before applying, in my opinion. Then let's say you did apply. Okay, you applied. That's cool. Some airlines have paid training and some people don't. So like my airline did not do paid training.
Oh.
Yeah, so you are volunteering.
Sorry.
It's true. So you are volunteering. And then I didn't know that because I said, I only applied to this one place because my neighbors worked at. I didn't apply to several places. So I didn't know that. I thought everyone did that. So when I found out I could have got paid, I was like, what? Didn't know that. Because again, I just got out of college. I had no money. So I was excited to get paid. So some people don't have paid training. So if you're not in the position to not do paid training, don't apply to not paid training places. However, if you feel like you could hustle and save so that you have money, you know, because think about it. If you're a trainee, you still got to pay your rent. You still got to pay your bills. So you need to think about that, because you could be screwed if you, you know, go somewhere like that. And then lastly, I would just say, you can do the training thing, you know, the money part while you apply to it. But lastly, I would just make sure that you know that as a flight attendant, you're kind of the bottom of the barrel. Okay. For us, in most places, flight attendants are interchangeable. Even though it takes them 6+ weeks to train us, we don't really matter to them as much as, let's say, the pilots, the agents, the mechanics. It's unfortunate, but that's what we live in right now. I know you've seen the whole thing about pay us for boarding. So we don't get paid for boarding, anything like that. There's a whole bunch of stringence on how you get paid. So from my opinion, when you be a flight attendant, you're doing it because you want to travel. You're doing it because you want to see the world. You're doing it because you you enjoy people. You might not be the best people person. You gotta like people a little bit to be a flight attendant. But that's really why you're doing it. And you're basically dealing with corporate America without really being in corporate America. Because we don't have no one's on the plane watching us all the time like you would at a desk job. So you just have to kind of, it's a weird job to have, but it's a cool job to have. My mom always say that I have what do they tell me? I basically I'm an entrepreneur with benefits. That's what they call me. Because you don't really have to follow a lot of rules, but you do. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You have to, it's like a really weird line where like, okay, you need to be at work at this time, but it's not the same time every day. You need to make sure that you check all the emergency equipment every time you get on a plane, because you need it, but every plane has different places for their emergency equipment. Mm. It's not a lot of mundane check mark, this. But at the same time, it is, because as you work and you get used to all the airplanes that you're on, and you get used to all the scenarios, it almost becomes mundane, because your head kind of goes to the Rolodex to like, okay, solve this solution this way, solve this solution that way. And then when you get something that shocks you, you're like, oh, okay. You kind of freeze for a second, but then now that's in your Rolodex and it's there for the next time it happens.
But what like when you're I guess in these cities and you land, how long are you like there, right? So let's say you're, I don't know, flying from Dallas to, well, not Miami, because I know you mentioned that airport, but Dallas to LA, right? Let's say you fly from Dallas to LA. How long, like, are you there for like an hour, like a week, a couple of days? Like, do you get to choose? How's that go?
So it actually just depends. So usually, and I think it's like that for every airline. So usually when we have to bid for our schedule every month.
Okay.
So like, excuse me, unlike a person who like has a 9 to 5, you're going to your desk 9 to 5. Us, it's like, okay, let's say I just bid, right? And it's the day to bid, and I'm looking for how I want my constraints. I like weekends off. So I'm gonna make sure I have all my weekends off. And that's really my only thing. I want all my weekends off, and I want to make sure that I don't do any transcons, which is like, Charlotte to LA or LA to New York. I don't like being on a plane that long unless it's international. That's just a me preference. A lot of people like them. So that's really all I'm looking for. I'm really simple. Or if I have any kind of events the next month, like a birthday, anniversary, whatever, I want to make sure I have those days off, or have a trip that flies in or takes off before or after, So that's how we fix our schedules. And then the computer, you put all that in there, and then you wait 3 days, and then you get a surprise, and it's your schedule, basically. The computer does all that. And so it pre-plots your month with trips. So like, oh, and I love 2 days. I don't really like 3 days. So I would put in there that I want 2 days. So with all those constraints, and it's based off of seniority too. So like there may be a trip that's really senior. Let's say anything international senior, like Sao Paulo, even Alaska, Hawaii, London, all that's really senior. So usually in Dallas, that goes like 20 something years. So I really ain't gonna hold that, but that's how it is. That's a lot, right? So with that being said, you spits out your monthly schedule, and you might have some 2 days on there, you might have some 3 days on there. Hell, you might be lucky and have a turn, which is where you go one place, come back, and you're done, right? But the computer tells you what you're doing for the most part. So when you look at it, I had a trip. I actually did that on my page. I had a day in the life, right? And I did a whole 3-day trip. So my first day, I think I remember it. My first day was a Monday, and I left Dallas and went Dallas, Pensacola, Dallas, New Orleans. So that was one day. I was going to be out laying over in New Orleans for 18 hours. And so then the next day I did New Orleans, Miami, Newark. That was the second day. On there, it said I was going to be in Newark for 15 hours. And then the last day I would do Newark, Dallas, and I was done. So that's what's on the schedule already.
So it's almost kind of, it's obviously schedule is always mapped out ahead of time, but just the idea of like, you still know, like the process of it, right? Yeah. So what would you say, I guess, give me 3 pieces of advice that you would give to new flight attendants?
New flight attendants, the advice I would give you is that it's very hard. Don't let people think that it's easy. It seems easy because you're new and excited, okay? But you need to know your contract. That's what I tell people. I was very naive and trying to be helpful to the company when I first started out, and they abuse you. So you need to know your contract. Know what they can and can't do to you. Know what they should and shouldn't do for you. Work with your contract, because we're trying to get more flight attendant rights and stuff, right? So work with your contract. Enjoy traveling. It's the best thing. It's my big advocate for traveling. It's made me the person I am, all the different places I've gone. However, you have to practice safety. You might be really excited to post on your Instagram that you're in I don't know, London, and you're walking down this weird alley and you're doing blah, blah, blah. People fetish flight attendants. So don't be like posting stuff because people are looking at that hashtag and you could have a stalker on your hands, like be smart, post things after you leave, post things, something like that. Like just be smart. Don't go to that city and tell everyone all your business. I don't ever tell anyone I'm a flight attendant when I'm out of the country. I make up something else because I don't want them to know that I have no family ties to where I am. I don't want that to happen. So safety. And, third, I would just make sure that you are prepared to, our job is safety. It's not customer service. However, you make people's day sometime. You make or break someone's day. Someone could be having a horrible time with the gate agent. Someone could have been having, TSA. Someone could have had a horrible time with TSA. And then they come on the plane and they see you smile. Or you helped them, with something that someone else on a different plane thought was, stupid or something. Like things that I always get such thanks for, in my opinion, are just nice everyday things. But sometimes when you're working at an airline, people are so obsessed with deadlines and so obsessed with taking off on time and so obsessed with, the rules and regulations that they made, not FAA, that they forget that people are human beings. I've had a lot of customers come on. I had this one lady, she came on in tears, crying. And I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, they're making me put my wedding dress underneath the plane. And I was like, why? And she was like, they said it won't fit. And I was like, because like the reason that this is like, what? Because every day gate agents are gate agents let y'all regular passengers get away with everything. They be coming out with 6-7 bags. They be having like 3 shopping bags. They be having all sorts of stuff. Or a guitar and be like, oh, it'll fit in the closet, just put it in the closet. Like that happens to us all the time. You're like a freaking guitar. So for her to be like, her wedding dress wouldn't fit, we have a closet, you put everything else in the closet, But this one gate agent that day, I don't know what they was going on. I don't know what's going on. But they were just like, nah, you have to they wanted her to roll it up and leave it at the door. And you're going, she was in tears. So I was just like, and so I talked to the captain. I went through protocol. I talked to the captain, said, look, there's this woman out here. I put her dress in here. Is that okay? Can I move my bag and put it there? She was like, yeah, let's put it in there. Because we are in customer service still. But she was just so happy. She was in tears. And it was just that little thing that I did I didn't have to do anything other than say, here, put it here. It'll still get wrinkled. Is that okay? And she was like, yes. I said, okay. And put it in the closet.
You know what? That story right there is actually a good segue into another question I have for you. And it's the final question I have for you. And this question I ask everyone on Final Legacy, right? So when you mention your overall story, right, from being a student athlete to all the sacrifices that you had to make, right, not getting tattoos, not being able to dye your hair, all for the sake of you keeping your scholarship, right? And then becoming a flight attendant and sending out the application, and it being one of your last resorts. The fact that one of your neighbors, right, gave you the opportunity to start that. The fact that you almost thought that you didn't get the position, right? Yeah. You had to go to the left instead of the right. But then now years later, it obviously worked out. And then again, fast forwarding to the fact that you were able to help a woman with her wedding dress, and obviously that's the biggest moment really in a woman's lifetime outside of maybe having children. But the fact that you played a huge role in that. And the reason why I say all that, because like I said, it leads me to the final question that I have for you, and it's a question I ask everyone that's been on Define Your Legacy. And that question is, how do you want to be remembered?
Wow, that's a really deep question. People just be knowing off the top what they want to do.
And they never do at all the other questions that we ask and talk about. It's just, oh yeah, bam, it's free flowing. It's of course when that question is asked, it's there's a moment of reflection there, I'll say.
Well, okay. I don't want to be that person, but it sounds like I'm about to plug myself, which I probably will. So my legacy, when it came to, it's going to be a long-winded question. Crap. I'm sorry. I'm not short-winded. Basically growing up, my parents, they were postal workers, right? So growing up, I saw the I had, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna work at the post office. Done. That was it. That's what I said as a little child. I'm working at the post office. I kept that mentality up until high school. And then they were like, well, you have to go to college. I said, why? To be a postal service? I have to go to college? So I went to college. I still want to work at the post office. Post office was actually the first job I applied for and I did not get. So I was like, okay. Because my family, we lived comfortably. So I was like, that would be good. So let's just do it. So then going to be a flight attendant, I loved it. So I told people that, could be dating and they'd be like, oh, how long you plan to do this? It's a career. I plan to do it until I can't push the cart down the aisle no more. Like that was my thing. I just wanted to be a flight attendant and that was it. But then COVID happened and I got furloughed and everything changed. I was furloughed for like 3-4 months. And before that, I took a leave because I was taking care of my family, whole bunch of stuff, right? So here I am now when I thought I'm a flight attendant, that's it. Now I'm like, crap, I got to do something else. And I didn't feel like I was prepared to do anything else. So that's when I started thinking about things. And even how you found me on social media, I wasn't that person 2-3 years ago, like posting and making reels and things like that. My friends who are in social media had told me I need to get on this bandwagon a long time ago, but I wasn't comfortable talking in front of people. I just wasn't. So COVID hit me in the butt and I was like, well, shit, let me see if I can do this. Let me see if I can make some money doing this. And let me figure out, it took me 1.5 years or so to figure out how I wanted to wrap my platform and how I wanted to inspire or help people. So I started, the branding like Peony, and I do lifestyle and travel because travel is my lifestyle, tag. But then I also have like the Real Fake Florist, which is my other company that I have. And then I have a podcast with my husband. So now it's more like a hustle, and it's also like, but everything I touch, I want it to be great. I don't want it to be like a gimmick. I don't want it to be a commercial. I want it to be very personal. So that I think that's like, part of my legacy is those 3 things are things I'm focusing right now on to make my legacy. Like with my travel page specifically, what gets on my nerves, and this just happened when we went on a trip to Bali, is that everyone wants to be famous now. Like everyone. I don't want to be famous. I really don't. If my face can ever be shown again, I would love it. But I know it has to get me there, So everyone wants to be famous. So they just kind of put out the same content because they know it worked for one person. So like one thing that's going on right now that really irritates me, and this has to do with my legacy, is Black people in travel. And it's the gimmicks that they're telling people to go places without giving them all the information. So like, I don't know if you've seen it, but it was like this one, it was like people ask me, I don't know the real thing, but it's like people ask me, is it safe to travel here? But is it safe in America? Because of like, that's like a big thing that's going on everywhere on everyone's things. So they'll have a beautiful atmosphere with a Black person and be like basically like, why are you asking if it's safe to travel here when it's not safe for us in America? Well, there are a lot of places overseas that are not safe for us either. So people need to know that. So like one of the posts that I just posted, I always want people to know like, okay, as a Black person, as a Black woman, as a solo traveler, as a woman traveler, like there are things you should know, not just because this resort is pretty or not just because you can get on a swing. I wanted them to know stuff. Mm. I don't want it to be just glossy. They need to know the real of what's going on, like how to travel with money, how to do transactions, how to do, credit cards and this. Like, I want that to be told because when you Google stuff like that, nothing pops up. Mm. Same thing with florals and the, relationship podcast. I don't want it to be like, 10 ways to have a great relationship. How am I supposed to be someone to tell you how to great relationship? Like, I want to talk about our ups and downs. I want to talk about the fight that we got in last week and how it can help another person, So my legacy, in my opinion, has always been to be relatable in everything that I do, to be relatable, to be a person that you can talk to and have a real conversation with. I hope the conversation felt real and not fake. That's like always been my thing, is that I want to be that person that I was looking for when I was searching for something. Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hear you on that. That's why, as I said to you before we even started recording, there's a reason why the word, business and investing and wealth isn't necessarily in my title, just because the whole point of all this is for people to be able to pause and, and reflect on just what it is ultimately that they're trying to build. Of course, it's still, financial literacy podcast. You know what I'm saying? You mentioned before the whole unpaid and volunteering thing. But but at the same time, we can't deny, right, the impact that money has on a person's life, right? There's no working around that. But so it's still refreshing to hear just, the overall life goals and why people want to be remembered. But do me a favor, right? So if you could drop your social media, right? Where can people find you? A website or again, your ad name, IG, wherever it is, right? Where is it that people can find you?
All right. Well, my lifestyle and travel content with comedy is Briony Like Peony. You can find me on that on Instagram and TikTok. And as I mentioned, the Real Fake Florist is on Instagram. And then 401 on the Copelands is a podcast. So you can find on all your podcast streamings as well as Instagram and TikTok.
Appreciate it. And on the Define Your Legacy front, y'all, of course, make sure you subscribe to Theus Elijah on YouTube. All right. As well as Define Your Legacy on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, Define Your Legacy on Instagram, as well as Facebook, DYL Podcast on Twitter, Theus Elijah on TikTok.
You everywhere.
Damn. Feel like I'm missing one thing, but that's okay. But yeah, that's where you can find Define Your Legacy. Oh, all episodes of Define Your Legacy drop every Thursday at 8:24 a.m. Eastern, okay? All Define Your Legacy episodes drop every Thursday at 8:24 a.m. Eastern. All right. And if you could, Bree, just leave us with some final words, right? Do you have any final words for our lovely audience of Define Your Legacy?
Just enjoy traveling and be nice to your flight attendants.
There you go. You know what? That's very important though in our seriousness as we conclude this. Like, be nice to people who have intentions of being nice to you. Right. Like, you might be having a bad day or whatever, but in your case, if, why are you upset on a flight? Like, and it's for real, because it's one thing to be upset and like, okay, damn, I gotta put gas in my car. I don't want to do that. It's one thing to be upset in traffic, right? Who the hell wants us in traffic? But you're on a flight. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely hear you on that. Okay. So just like that, y'all, again, appreciate you for being on the show. But just like that, y'all, another dope edition of Define Your Legacy. And just like that, we gone. Peace.